Hello, students. Say we want the first, I don't know how many, 7 odd numbers. One thing we could do is we could write it out, right? 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. If we want to make it into a set. And we have the first 7 positive odd numbers. Um, how could we do this with a comprehension? Well, one thing we could do is we could write the set of all 2x plus 1. Now, when x is 0, we're going to get 1. So we want this to go from 0 to 6. So this would be, if I want to go from 0 to 6, I want that to be for x in range 7. Because remember, this will be a closed interval, includes 0, doesn't include 6. And I hit enter, and I get 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. Okay, and now let's say I want the squares of the first 7 odd integers. Well, one thing I could do, it's not the only way to do it, one thing I could do is I could say x squared for x in, and one more time, I could write out my set, and that's going to work just fine. Or what I could do is I could do something like this, x squared for x in, and I could put a comprehension inside a comprehension. Now remember, when I have these comprehensions, so far what we have is we have one part, which is an iterable. It's like a container. I'm taking things out of it. And another part, which is the map part. So over here, range 7 was my container, and then I mapped using this. Now my container is going to be something that I generate using a comprehension. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick stuff from that container into my map. So let's see if this works. It's a little confusing to read with all the x's there, but you'll see I got the same thing. So one thing that I might do just to make this a little easier for others to read is I might at least change the variable. And it doesn't matter whether I use x, y, I, j. I want to avoid keywords, words that Python has a built-in meaning for. So for example, this is good. What I wouldn't want to do is something like, I don't know, you already know that len has a meaning, right? So I wouldn't do something like that. Don't do it. I'm tempted to just do it, and it works. Shouldn't have shown you that. But the thing is, and it didn't even write over len, because len still works fine. But you can write over keywords in Python. We're going to have assignment. Here, the reason it didn't write it over is it recognized that this is in this inside situation and didn't write over len, but it's totally possible to write over keywords in Python. So don't do that. I mean, unless you're really trying to confuse others with your code purposely, I would avoid using any keyword as a variable. But x, y, these are good. And I like the way this reads because we have x and y here. We can see that the y applies to this and the x applies to that. But some of you might say, still with this example, some of you might say, hey, I can think of a much clearer way of doing this. And you can do this in one step. What I could do is I could just take 2x plus 1. And once again, range 7, and boom, I get the same set. So lots of different ways to do things. And I just wanted to show you that if you wanted to, you can put a comprehension inside a comprehension, and it works just fine. As a matter of fact, if I wanted to, I could make this a comprehension, and I could be grabbing from this comprehension to make the middle one, and then grab from the middle one to make the outer one. That's all perfectly fine. We can also use more than one variable in a comprehension in another way. And I'm going to show you that next.